Hey y'all, just finished Dune Messiah. Once again took me a little bit longer, even though this book is definitely shorter. I didn't think before making this video about what I have to say. I literally just closed it like 1 minute ago. I mean, I guess if you don't want spoilers, don't watch this. But it feels like the ending of this was too clean. I wonder what the next book would even be about. I guess Muad'Dib's legacy or whatever, because first, who died first? Well, at the end it was Chani who died, and then no, he lost his eyes, and then Chani died, and then now he's gone into the desert and isn't with the people anymore. So it's like, what is even happening? And at the end, when like the little troll guy, what was his name? Something with a B. Bizgar, or whatever, that little troll guy. What was the point of him in the plot? Like, the only reason he was there was to hypnotize the Gola. But other than that, he was pretty useless. I didn't understand, like, why his character was there. It didn't seem very he mattered, other than the part where he hypnotized the Gola. And the plan ended like everything was too clean at the end, in my opinion, compared to the first book. The first book was so open-ended. But this book was definitely more of a challenge to get through, which is funny because it is shorter. But that's a lesson for you. Size doesn't matter. Size doesn't matter. And like the whole scheme against Paul, with like Scytale, the guildsman, the Reverend Mother, and all that stuff, like, it just ended so cleanly. Like, they got executed or whatever, and there were no repercussions. I don't know. Whoever read this book, if y'all understand what I'm saying, like, this book ended too clean. And for me, it took a little bit to get into it at the beginning, to get into the flow of reading. I'm not sure why. The first book read much better to me. And I'll say a good chunk of this one is, at least the end of it, which is fresh in my head, was all about like Paul basically losing his mind internally. And it's just descriptions, like disorienting, like writing about what his, like, the future collapsing, the moon falling, and all that shit, which is really, really cool to read about. I can't place my finger on it. Maybe that's the point of the book, when put into perspective with the other, like, 3 that follow it? 4 books after this one. Next one is Children of Dune, or what's it called? What's the next one called? It's called, yeah, Children of Dune. So it's gonna be the next one. Children of Dune, God Emperor of Dune, Heretics of Dune, and Chapter House Dune. I'm gonna give it to Frank Herbert. These are sick ass fucking names. And the covers, these covers are awesome, dude. These covers are awesome. And blue for this book makes a lot of sense. For some reason, when I was reading about the Tleilaxu people, or whatever, they were literally like the exact same color as this, to me, in my head, when I was reading about them. Like, that's the picture. Like, when it was Scytale speaking, I just like saw this color, and I thought that was cool because I feel like the introduction of the Tleilaxu, is that how you say it? I don't know. I said Freeman too in like my first video, but it's actually Fremen. That's how they said it in the movie. But the Tleilaxu that were introduced in this book were like the main new thing that was introduced. So I thought it was cool that the new main thing introduced to the plot is it's in my head the same color as the book cover. And I don't think it's placebo. I think I would have had the same. I would have had the same color in my head for them. Again, maybe I should have thought this out more. I'm not gonna edit this video because I don't care. This is more for me to recall, to remember. What else do I have to say about this book? The whole temple, like Aaliyah's temple and everything, and her reigning, like REIGN, reign, like her reign as like basically, well, not queen, as Aaliyah or whatever. There was a lot more texture given to her in this book, obviously, because in the last book she was like born near the end. But I feel like her character was developed really well. Except the part where she's like in love with Duncan is kind of strange. And that was like on the last page as well. Like the whole book ended with them like with her being like, love me, and he's like, I do, and she's like, I know, love knows love. And I was like, isn't she like 15 years old and he's like 40? I don't know. I don't like that pairing because Duncan like knew Paul when he was a kid. And Paul is Aaliyah's older brother. Like, it's weird. But I kind of like it. I kind of like that it's weird. But the same way, I kind of like that that Frank Herbert didn't hide from like the discomfort of things and trains of thought. Like, I really like that he shows all sides of things. Like, for example, when Paul didn't want to have Irulan's baby, the Ben Gesserit were like, no, the bloodline. And then Paul was like, I don't care. Chani's gonna be the mother. And the Ben Gesserit were thinking about how to preserve the bloodline with like the Ben Gesserit genes. And when they start talking about like Paul and his sister having kids, that was so weird to read. And there was a moment, like, they never said it out loud to Paul, but in their internal monologue that Frank Herbert was writing, you can like sense the possibility like crossing their mind and like the discomfort it made. I thought that was really well written. Yeah, this book was more uncomfortable to read than the first one. The first one was like this building of the world and like the building up of Muad'Dib, and he's just his rise and how satisfying it is and how much he went through and overcame and how much strength he has and intelligence. But in this book, it's literally just breaking all of that down and being like I actually can't see the future, or like I can, but then it disappears, and then oh my god, and then he's blind and he's like, oh my god, I can't see now with my eyeballs, but I can still see with my vision. And then I was also confused why he only went into the desert at the end of the book, because the Fremen say that if you're blind you should be left for the desert, But he was blind for like a good amount of time before he left for the desert. Like, why did he decide that time to like go to the desert? Why didn't he just like go immediately after he became blind? And like, I now that I'm asking the question, I actually think he went because he didn't want to be alive. He didn't want to deal with the shit. And he kind of used the pretense of Fremen customs to basically go into the desert and not come back. But we'll see in the next book. Was there anything